Welcome to Darklaw Dominion, where we dive deep into the shadows, the darkest parts of ourselves that we rarely speak of, yet we all feel. I'm your host, Dominion, and in this series, we're not afraid to face the raw truths of our mental health, the battles that rage within, and the weight we carry when no one else is watching. This is where we confront the fears, the pain, the trauma we hide, and uncover the power that lies within the darkness. Because only by facing it can we truly heal and rise. Let's take this journey together. Welcome to the depths of Darklaw Dominion.
Good evening, and welcome to the Creative Dominion podcast with your host, Dominion. Acknowledge me and welcome to Season 2, Episode 1 with the Crystal Jordan out of the ATL, Atlanta, Georgia, the Dirty South with the F. How are you doing today, Crystal?
I'm doing fine. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Thank you for being the start of a wonderful second season of the Darklaw Dominion mental health series. And so before I get into a little synopsis of season 1 and borderline intro, why don't you tell the viewers and listeners alike who you are?
All right, you guys. So my name is Crystal Jordan. I'm an autism advocate. I am a sister. I'm a friend. I'm a daughter. I'm a niece. But most importantly, I'm a mom to a boy named Zachariah. He's the reason why I became an autism advocate. He's autistic. He's 7. He's nonverbal. Sometimes you may hear me say non-speaking or non-vocal. And that's a little bit about me. Oh, yeah. I have a magazine. I'm a co-founder of Become Her magazine. I'm also the founder of Zachariah World, and I'm also an author, and I write about autism awareness and acceptance. Those are everything I write about, and that's a little bit about me.
Awesome. It's a pleasure and honor to have you as a part of the Creative Dominion and as to kick off Season 2, debuting Christmas 2024. Spoiler alert. And so before we get started here, going to do a little twist, just very excited and blessed to be starting already on Season 2 of this wonderful mental health series. And so Season 1 encapsulated several different topics, from overcoming witchcraft and returning to Christ to abating child predators online to finding safe people in life. So we've had a various array of versatility within our topics in Season 1. And Season 2, again, we're starting out with a bang out of Atlanta, Georgia. We're going to talk about autism awareness. And as I start with every episode, I want everyone listening and viewing to find one thing that resonates as we speak here today. Again, you may not have a direct reflection with someone with autism in your family, but, autism is a normal condition, normal way of life for different individuals. And again, you may not, be aware. And, Crystal's going to bring a wealth of knowledge and expertise to reach one, teach one. Again, I encourage everyone to take one thing that resonates, because like I said, even if you aren't directly impacted by what autism is, everyone has coworkers, family members that they may not know. If you're in college or went to school, you might have old classmates. You may have a guy in the back of the classroom at elementary school, and you're like, he's different. He or she could have had or been diagnosed with autism. You just weren't aware of what autism was. And I've always been a firm believer of education. And so Crystal's going to bring a wealth of knowledge for us here today. And so, as always, I encourage everyone, like I said, just to take one thing that resonates, apply it daily to your life, to decree the dominion of your own mind and reveal the true light that shines. And so with that being said, first question, what inspired you and what motivates you the most to become an autism advocate, and what drives you to continue to provide those resources?
So, what inspired me to be an advocate is a very simple answer. It's my son, Zachariah. But originally, when I first started this journey, I did not call myself an advocate. I was just a mom on a mission trying to have a normal conversation, normalize the conversation around autism awareness and acceptance. And when I created my book, just like you, to be very accurate, I did not call myself an autism advocate. I was just creating a book because I didn't see any books on the market that looked like my son. So of course, I seen the beautiful kids with the blue eyes on the covers, and that's what I saw. So I said, I need to see a book that look like my son. I need a book that like I need a black kid on this book that represent autism, black autistic kids, adults, all of that. So I created it not knowing I was going to be an advocate. And people started calling me advocates and started doing interviews. So God and people gave me the title advocate before I personally started calling myself an advocate. What drives me for this mission about spreading autism awareness and acceptance is a really simple answer, but it's not a simple answer. Being a black girl from the hood, when you see different kids, you use the word retarded. And I actually don't ever use that word. I would say the R word. But he's slow buzz. And I hate that idea around special needs kids because they are people just like us. They just need extra guidance, extra help, extra assistance. So with me being in the forefront talking about this all the time, I know for a fact I'm an impact. And I meet so many parents that say I impact them. So that's my reason why I do what I do.
Awesome. I love that you said that
Thank you.
because, like you said, unless you've been living under a rock, we always, we've seen the cartoons or, we've heard the R word.
Uh-huh.
Me growing up, I'm only 28, but growing up, that was like the kind of like every generation goes through that slang where it's like a word we shouldn't say, whether it's, racial slurs for black people, like the N word, or um, like I said, the R word, or, back then, even for, the LGBTQ community, people used to say the F word, or, what I'm saying, as a kid. And then as we grow older, it's like, hey, these are not words we should use in our vocabulary. And so I think the education and the mindset around humanity has evolved when it comes to, hey, let's get educated and not use these words, that are kind of being, ostracized within society. And so, with that being said, what I want to first start with is, can you tell us what autism is? Because I just think that with, just like you said, with special needs, again, there are people too, and every condition has a specific, you know, way to go about it. And I just think that, especially with autism, I just think that no, we really don't, we know what it is, but it's like, a lot of people really just don't know what it is. They kind of categorize it all in the same, like all their, special needs, but they do have special needs. But, what specifically, in your opinion, is autism, or I guess fact?
Okay. So I don't really use the definition of what autism is because for me, autism is one word and it's a million different stories. Every person look at autism different. Everybody who has an autism family member experience it different because the spectrum is so wide. But autism spectrum disorder, that's what it's called. It is a social disorder because sometimes they don't understand social cues. Sometimes they don't understand the awareness. Like, for example, my son would dodge out into the street, and I understand that's not safe, but he used to, not anymore. But that's also an example. Um, and sometimes you meet autistic people who are nonverbal and they need more assistance. Also in the community, you have, I don't use these terms, so I'm gonna break it down. You have high functioning, which I think is very offensive to kids like my son who are considered low functioning. So my son have a higher support needs than somebody who have a lower support need because they need more assistance. My son need more assistance versus somebody who probably is like me, you couldn't tell who was autistic. So, because 9 to 10, I'm probably on the spectrum, but it costs so much to get tested as an adult. Because like you said, back in the day, we didn't have these conversations. We didn't even know what autism was. It was called Asperger's, but it's not called that anymore because he was racist. And that's why the name changed. And now it's autism.
Awesome. That's actually a great fun fact. I actually never knew that it was called Asperger's. I just
Mhm.
know a lot of like even just conditions. Like I know schizophrenia, that's like not even a thing anymore. I just remember back in the day, like they even used to make rap songs about it. And, you had the movies and characters, and now it's like, there's no such thing as schizophrenia anymore. So,
I think
but
they
yeah,
call it bipolar disorder now.
yep, now it's just, yep, now you're just crazy, I guess. Like, that's what
No,
they just try to, the bipolar thing, they just try to just bunch it all together and be like, oh, well, you're bipolar, you're insane, or whatever words they use nowadays. And so I love that you said that because, again, a lot of people, you know, I love that you said, we may be on the spectrum and we don't even know it. And
especially women. Women are diagnosed less than boys. Like when you get into like the stats and the numbers, women, girls are diagnosed 4 times. Boys are undiagnosed 4 times likely than girls. Girls not diagnosed enough because we're mass. A lot of women find out they are autistic in their late 20s. If you find out after, like, I think 5 is a late diagnosis, 10 is a late diagnosis. Women find out later in life they're autistic versus boys, it's so obvious. Like, you see the signs and the symptoms, and you're like, okay, I think my son, something about my son. But your daughter, you probably think, oh, she's being reserved. Or for me, I was very reserved. I didn't talk. I'm like my son, I actually was nonverbal until 5. And before my auntie died last year, we was talking about me and but they didn't know what it was when I was younger. But that's the thing. Back then it just wasn't a conversation. And that's why this conversation we're having right now is so important for people can diagnose their kids. And kids can know, hey, I have this condition and this is how I can navigate through life and be the best I can be.
yeah, I love you said that because, like I said, it's all about education, right? And I want to
Mhm.
encourage everyone listening and viewing, get educated. Don't be, closed minded when it comes to getting tested. And I want to say one thing before we continue to get into it. Don't be afraid of the diagnostic. Just because especially, I have children as well. If you have kids, don't be afraid, to get tested, to, get your kids tested. And regardless of the test results, and it's not just with autism, but with anything, but especially specifically autism, your child is still your child. They're not broken. They're not, nothing wrong with them. Even if they are diagnosed with a condition, they're not, you know, they're not garbage, right? They're not damaged goods, just because they are diagnosed with a disorder or something that you didn't see coming. So, um, I encourage it, especially parents, seek higher counsel, get information, get educated. And cause like you said, back in the day, you know, I just remember, we used to always have they used to call like the short bus and all that stuff.
I
And
hated that growing up because I was in special education. I hated that. Like, I hated it. Like, what was the point? And little kids are just so evil. It just, mm-mm. And that's probably why I don't use them type of terms because it's very offensive. And what's the point? And you said something that I want to actually touch on when it comes to parents. I meet so many parents that are in denial. They don't want to get their kid tested. They don't want help. They think it's nothing wrong with their kid. And I'm sitting there looking like, baby, your kid is autistic and you need to go get your baby tested. And there's nothing wrong with that. But like I said in the beginning, that comes from back in the day with the negative connotations, like people talking negative about special needs people in general, not just autism, everything. And now we're in this day and time, and the conversation is being normalized, but it's not normalized enough because it still happens. I know people who kids on the spectrum, but they don't post about it, they don't talk about it because they're ashamed. Why are you ashamed? What are you ashamed about? You can be helping another parent, even like just by you telling your story, not by you like being like me. I'm not saying be an advocate like me because I'm not gonna lie. I get some phone calls and it be sad the things I hear from other parents, and I'd be like, wow, well, I'm happy to assist you, but everybody's not built for that. But it's still a lot of parents, especially that look like me, who are ashamed of their kids. I love my child to death. I ain't ashamed. Like, he's autistic. It's okay. But we still gonna treat him like we treat everybody else. But of course, I'm gonna give him extra guidance and love and support because he needs extra guidance, love, and support.
And I love you said that too, because like back in the day, it was just like, oh, little Johnny just don't talk much, or uh, even with like not necessarily autism, but just like we used to have like in elementary school kids like throwing fits or, you know, throwing things or slamming things against the wall, and it's like,
And that could have been an outburst. That could have been them. They could have been overstimulated. It could have been a lot. Like looking back, it could have been a lot of things. But of course, the school system, and sometimes school systems still do this, they write off the Black kids as is a behavior problem. And is it really a behavior problem? Like, where's the data to show that this kid has a behavior problem?
so I love you said that because I just remember when I was a kid, I just have like a like I get bored easy. Like I just have to be, I have a complex mind, and I just remember, the teachers trying to put me on ADHD medication. My mom, got educated and said no. So I was never, actually diagnosed or anything with ADHD. But, as I grew older, it wasn't ADHD. It was just, I was big into computers and
Your teacher didn't know that. They didn't hone in on that.
right. And I love that you said that because again, with the education system, I just think, it needs overhaul because you might have, whether or not the kid's autistic or not, you might have them, even if they are, it's like, hey, they might do really well in math. Well, if you're whenever, and maybe they just don't, they need to work on, reading. If you're just like, oh, well, they just can't read, they're, like I said, we're just going to keep trying to make them read. Like, no, hey, you see, they're good at math. Like, try to, still teach them how to read, but, find a personalized plan for the children instead of just
Well,
like,
they already
oh,
have that though. They have that. It's called IEP. That's also where I come in at because I'm an IEP advocate as well. So exactly what you just said is already a thing. It's actually a law. It's 13 different categories. Your kid has to meet one of those 13 different categories. And of course, if your kid is autistic, that is one of the categories. That's the category my son is in. And an IEP is an individualized educational plan. That plan is designed for that child. So the reading, you brought up reading. So that you can have a reading goal, but you need data and you need a SMART goal. What is a SMART goal? A SMART goal, I always forget the R before we start, okay? But anyway, the S is for specific, M is for measurable, R I can't remember, and T is for the time. So when you create your goal, it can't be opinion based. Like it's so many teachers who don't know or that I have seen create IP goals and they are not designed for that kid. And I'm like, that's not a SMART goal. And so exactly what you said is already a thing. It just parents have to be aware that it's a thing. And and then when they go into these IEP meetings, they need to be prepared. Like, how do you get prepared for an IEP meeting? Is first off, you ask for the draft for the IEP. You go over it with an advocate or yourself. But if you're new to this world, I recommend hiring an advocate. And then after you do that, then you make sure what I do personally for my child, which was great. I schedule meetings with everybody in his team. What I mean by that is his teacher. I talk to her before the IEP meeting. I talked to his teacher assistant before the IEP meeting, his speech therapist, his OT therapist, the lead teacher, and we came up with a plan that matched my child. So when I went into the meeting, it was just like chef kiss. It was amazing. It was so good to the point the principal told me it was the best IEP meeting she ever had because I was just so thorough. And then I also believe in every IEP, you should open up with a vision statement. And the vision statement is a little like this. I come up with a quote about my child because I don't believe in starting an IEP with weaknesses. I want to start my son IEP meeting with what is my vision for him? Where do I see him the next couple years? What is the goal? What is the goal that I have as his advocate? And what is the goal I have as his mom? So I'm going to read some and then you can ask me questions because I know you probably got some for me. I know you got some. So it says, with guidance, patience, and belief, I can rise to my fullest potential and achieve more than I ever imagined, Crystal Jordan. I feel like autistic kids, they just need guidance and patience. And we just need to believe in them. And when we do that, they can achieve more. And that describes my son. And I'm going to read just a little piece of my vision statement. It's too much, so I'm not going to read the whole thing. It says, as an advocate for my son, Zachariah, I envision a future where he thrives in independence, equipped with essential life skills like toileting, writing his name, and confidently asking for help. And it's more detailed than that, but I opened up with that before a reason because I didn't want to go in talking about what his delays because the data shows he's very delayed in a lot of areas. So versus starting there, we started here because I'm setting the tone of how I want this IEP meeting to go. I'm commanding this room for my client. Y'all understand that I'm his mom, but I'm his advocate first. And that's it. I'm done.
I love you said that because you said a lot of key things that I hope the listeners and viewers were paying attention to.
Okay.
And one thing, main things you said was be prepared. Again, a plan without action is a dream, but an action without a plan is a nightmare. And so I know at the beginning, towards the beginning of the episode, we talked about, don't be ashamed, don't be in denial. But the other side of not being in denial is also being supportive of your child. And to support your child is not just babying them and putting a pacifier, of life, it's being prepared. And I love that you said you started with that positive mission statement because how you start and lead is how the meeting's going to go. So,
Bingo.
and again, like I said, on the Career Dominion, we're very blunt. As a parent, if you think your child is less than or uneducated or dumb or stupid or what have you, if you go into that with the meeting with the teachers, I want to encourage the parents really quick because, again, especially as being a parent, I see this a lot just over my years of, meeting people with kids. How you perceive your child, the teacher can't over perceive how you perceive your child at home. If every day your child comes home and you just think they're just the dumbest, kid in the world, what do you think they're going to do for, 6 or 7 hours at school, 5 days a week? You know, you can't expect the teachers and the people at school to overcompensate for the lack of at home. And so as parents, it's a team effort. So we have to do our part, again, like Crystal said, to be educated when we go into these meetings. And it's deeper than that, right? She said the mission statement, but it's what do you say? What's your attitude when you speak to the teachers? How do you perceive feedback when it comes to your child? There's ups and downs when it comes to parenting child. Every child, goes through ups and downs, regardless of what they're going through. If your teacher says, hey, Johnny, had a bad day today, are you defensive? Are you argumentative? Are you belligerent? or are you receptive to the criticism and the feedback that your teacher is trying to give you to help your child at home? When your child gets home, are you just like, oh, that teacher don't know nothing, you do whatever you want? Or do you sit your child down and, do you work with your child? Do you guide your child, try to help them understand, hey, at school, you can't, we can't do that. You can't do that at school, and try to help them and coach them into better behavior. And that goes for all children, a lot of times, especially being that teamwork, we put a lot of baggage, and we put a lot of unnecessary stress on the teachers, because you're trying to get the teacher to play Superman. And then at home, you're just, not following through. And to piggyback off that statement as well, what's your follow through after your IEP meetings? What would you recommend parents to do post meeting?
I love that question, but I want to touch on something. A lot of parents, and I sit there and witness it as their advocate, they come into those meetings and they be ready, they be so defensive versus just sitting there, coming in to support the teacher staff. Now, you coming in defensive because the school is wrong. I get it. I've been there. I get that. But to answer your question, after the IEP meeting, I recommend you in the school understanding the strategies that y'all put in place. I put in strategies in place. I believe in after 90 days, I need an update, and I actually do a home to school communication every day because my son is nonverbal. So I expect the teacher to tell me every day how's my son doing, or once a week give me a follow up. I personally send my son a sensory strategy, because my son has a sensory overload and he stimulates a lot and he mouths. When I say he mouths, he eats things that are not food. But he eats paper, he chews raw. He doesn't swallow it, but he puts it in his mouth. I personally follow up with the teacher. I send strategies. I do things at home. I work on direction. I redirect him a lot at home, and I talk to the teachers. I make sure they do the same thing. I'm very big on consistency through school and home. So when it comes to his PEC system, I about forgot his audio. I'm about to show you my PEC system. He has one at school, an AAC device. And the AAC device is a communication device because, like I said, he's nonverbal. And it's a device that you can use to talk. I made sure from school and home, everything's the same. So I email my son teachers all the time. That's my advice. Y'all need to get in contact with the teachers. Create that partnership. It's not a competition. It's a partnership. That's your support. Like, your kid is at school for 7, 8 hours. So that's your support. So you need to see how can you come in and y'all work together. Now, if the IEP is trash, then you get an advocate, because it's some IEPs that are terrible. I experienced that as a parent, but now I parent differently within the school system, but I've had bad IEP experiences myself.
Awesome, awesome. I love you said that too, because again, it's all about being consistent, and you're doing what's best for the child. I think that should be number one as parent. Don't always, like you said, go into with that defensive mindset unless you like foreknow a fact that you're being wrong. Then by all means fight for your child, but
Uh,
be but also do it in a respectful way, right? It's all about tone of voice and how you portray, your feelings. Like, hey, this isn't right, and here's why. Again, come prepared. Like you said at the beginning, if you have no facts or no data or nothing, and you're just like, nope, you're wrong, we leaving, or nope, I don't like the IP, it's wrong, I don't like it, I don't want to do
you
it.
have to know the law too. Well, that's one thing I did leave out, like knowing the law, like the idea law, no kid left behind, which is the same law. Knowing that is very important. Knowing about IEPs is important. Knowing your parent rights is important. And all this stuff, I'm not gonna lie, is boring. The books for the law is like 150, but it's worth it. The reason why it's worth it is you need to know when you're going to these meetings and you hire an advocate or you hire an advocate lawyer, they know what they're talking about. and you know it's factual. Knowing the law is so important. Like your IEP, that's a legal binding contract between you and the school system. Like they have to abide by that. And if they're not, that's when, like I said, you get an advocate involved, you get an advocate lawyer involved, and we fight for your rights because that's your right as a parent to hire a third party person to come in and help you make sure your kid get what they need. And then I forgot to add this part about resources. If you do need IEP resources, you guys can go to my website and I have free IEP resources for you guys. I have an IEP ebook on there by another autism advocate. And I also have other things on there that is free resources for parents. Because unfortunately, there's so many resources out there that we don't know about it unless you know somebody who knows somebody. And I want to change that. And on my website, zachariah.com/resources, you will see all the resources. And if you have resources that you can get to me, let me know, and I will add it to my website.
Awesome, awesome. And so
Thank
some
you.
rapid fire questions real quick. What would you say if I'm a parent listening right now? Like, what if I don't have, what if I'm not, in the best financial state? Or what if I don't have the resources to hire an advocate or hire, a speech therapist? And what if I'm working, 30, 70 hours a week and don't have time to go to the different appointments for the therapy? What would you encourage parents that are kind of in that bind?
Okay, so that was a good question. Number one, step one is breathe. I am a single mom. I do all this stuff by myself with the help of my parents. I have a village. And after you breathe, then you get your village together and you figure that out because your kid needs you. But you cannot help your child from a half empty cup. I believe in giving your kid and feeding them from your overflow because I'm big on that. Because I have been depressed, I have had postpartum, and I was still a good mom, but I was never okay. Now I'm okay. Another thing is go to the Social Security office. You may qualify for SSI. Um, in your area, make sure you look up nonprofits for autism in your area. Number two, go on Facebook. It's a group on Facebook called Black Autistic Moms. Very good group, full of resources, full of advocates like myself. If you don't have the funds to hire advocates, most of the time, most advocates are free because I'm a free advocate. I actually don't charge for my services as of 2024, 2025. I will. But some advocates are free. There's also free advocates out there that you can find through, I can't remember the website. I will give it to him so he can link it, but you can find that. And then what was your last thing you asked me? Speech therapy. Oh, what if you get SSI, which is full Medicaid in your state, then you can get speech therapy, ABA. Now, if you want your kid to have something like play therapy, horse therapy, swimming therapy, that is all out of your pocket. But they have grants for that. Like for me, I don't pay full price for swimming lessons because it's grants out there for parents like me who, have autistic kids. And then your state may have a program that will allocate money to that. But you gotta have the official diagnosis, you gotta have paperwork. And you're gonna have so much paperwork when you're dealing with your autistic baby. And I recommend you creating a folder on your computer with all of your paperwork, making sure that you scan your stuff in your phone, like I use Genius Scan, and I keep up with all my son's paperwork through that app in my computer because I want to make sure everything I need for him I can get. The last resource is create your village and create a community within your community. That's it.
Awesome. And the next question, you mentioned a lot of, with your book, we always see like the blue eyes and, the TV commercials, but as a parent, one of the questions probably a parent has on here is how, how do we get those resources, in the people of color community? And, have you seen, what did you see when you first started this journey, just as a single mom? trying to figure it out? And what, you know, experience and evolution have you seen within the process for, autistic children of color? How have you seen it, expand and grow since you've become an advocate?
Okay, that's a great question. So when I first started, I didn't see books that look like my son. And that's the reason why I started this whole mission and ordeal. Since then, I have met so many awesome moms like myself who have self-published their books as well. And it's Black kids on the cover. The main character is an autistic kid. Since starting this journey, I have seen people have sent me videos of their kids reading my book and their kids finding themselves in my literature has been probably the most heartwarming thing to date. Even from like the little letters kids have written me about just like you, that that ha- that has not took the cake yet. Like last year, that took the cake, and we're in 2024, and that still to me a hold dear to me because these kids was not autistic. The teacher bought the book for they can learn about autism awareness. And all their kids, everybody in that class was not Black. It was other races. And they got to see a main character in a book be autistic. And they talked about, in my book, I use certain words like stemming. Mm, I use certain terms for you can learn what autism is and what I go through every day. And once again, I did it as a hobby and it just turned into something else. So, yeah.
Awesome. And then, what is your biggest success story for one of the couples or parents that you've advocated?
Okay, my biggest success story is gonna be good. My biggest success story as an IEP advocate is when I knew I was good once I got a lawyer set up. Like the school stopped communicating with me and they only communicated through the lawyer because they was ethically wrong. They was not following the ideal law. And I was like, y'all got my client messed up. But I didn't say it like that. I didn't say it like that. But it was so crazy. The parent was like, I can't believe the school is not talking to you anymore. I said, yeah, because I brought the law. And now they have to cover their track. And that was the moment I realized I'm good at what I do. If I can walk in or call, another success story is I have a good associate of mine. She was trying to get certain thing in the school system for her kid for weeks. They wouldn't give it to her. After she told me 3 days later, the school gave her what she wanted. And I said, dang, I'm good. So those are my two success stories. I have more like that, but those two that stick out the most because it shows I know what I'm doing and what I'm talking about. And the funny thing is I became an advocate because people told me I was an advocate and God told me too. So I never got certification in this. I never went to school for it, but I did learn so much with me personally having a kid on the spectrum, me personally reading these IEP documents, these 19 pages, 35 pages documents, and learning about the SMART goals, learning about the law. I have, I'm telling you, my son has forever changed my life and how I view people.
Awesome, awesome. And then if I'm listening, I'm like, wow, Crystal's amazing. What motivation or what tips would you give to individuals out there that are wanting to become advocates as well?
So if you guys want to become an advocate, do your research, buy a book. I'm not going to lie, the books are extremely boring. I have not found one book on the market that is like fun to read when it comes to what I do. Um, and be prepared to spend a little bit of money on the books because the books are not cheap. It's this website. They actually you get training. It's COPPA.org. I think that's the name of it. And it's like $95 for like an advocate a year. And look in your area and state and see how you become an advocate, an IEP advocate in your state. Every state is different. I know Georgia's different, but that's what you could do if you want to be one. But I just started because God told me to start. And I I put my information on Parent to Parent in Georgia, and ever since then, parents be calling me. They'll call me with their stories, and I hear some sad stuff sometimes, and it's really unfortunate the things that I do hear and I get to witness, because unfortunately, our nonverbal babies, we got to go harder for them, because who else going to go hard for them? Who's going to be in the school system that's going to really be like, I need to help this person? So that's how you can become an advocate. But like I said, my journey was a little bit different.
And then what were some of the toughest challenges and roadblocks that you've encountered in your journeys thus far?
My toughest roadblock was not believing in myself when I started getting phone calls and I started going to the school. I said, I'm good enough. It was imposter syndrome. I said, I'm good enough. I'm just a mom. Like this is what's playing in my head. I'm just a mom. And then I'm sitting at these tables with the school system and I'm killing it. I said, I'm doing good. So my biggest challenge was myself, not believing in myself and not realizing I am her. And God gave me this mission for a reason. Yeah.
Again, I hope you guys are listening. Like I said, so many powerful nuggets, so many great things said in this episode 1 of season 2. Again, learn so much, knowledge is power, right?
Uh-huh.
You only know what you know. And again, a lot of us don't know. And so, again, don't be discouraged. You know, have a plan of action, be prepared, continue to educate yourself, and reach one, teach one. I want to issue a challenge to all the listeners and viewers. If you know someone in your community, and when I say community, I mean coworker, family, friends, etc., that has, if you know someone with autism or know someone around autism, I encourage you to get involved and just, educate yourself, you know, learn about it. You'd be surprised, how different outlook that you'll have on life by just learning from other people. And just because someone has a disability or a condition doesn't mean you can't learn from them. We learn from each other each and every day. And so with that being said, what are some last, minute facts, motivation, tips, encouragement, anything that you'd like to say to the listeners and viewers? And also one more time, tell them where they could find your book and where they could find you on social.
Okay. So a fun fact about autism. 1 out of 2024, according to the CDC, 1 out of 36 kids are diagnosed with autism. A couple years ago when I wrote my book, it was 1 out of 54. And a couple years for that, it was 1 out of 166. What that shows me is parents are now getting their kids diagnosed. Parents are now taking action, but I need them to get the resources as well because it's there. Where you can find my book, just like you can find it on Amazon.com, ZachariahWorld.com for you want an autograph from me. You can get it from Walmart.com, Barnes and Noble, one book in a million. You can just Google it, you guys. It's literally everywhere. And where you guys can find me, I am on Instagram and everywhere as I am Crystal Jordan. And then if you need me to advocate for your babies, or you just need to reach out, event, whatever, you can reach me at crystaljordan.advocate@gmail.com.
Awesome, awesome. It's been a wonderful episode 1 of season 2. I hope we've all learned something new today about autism and bringing awareness. And again, reach one, teach one. Reach out to someone you know in your community that is dealing with autism or that you may know has dealt with autism. And again, be that helping hand, be that shoulder to lean on, be that person to vent on. You can be an advocate without being an advocate. Be that person to, you know, encourage one another and continue to decree the dominion of your own mind. and become the best version of yourself. And last thing I want to say is be the best version of yourself. Again, you know, don't discourage yourself and your children. Don't be defensive. Be educated, seek higher counsel, keep learning, keep growing, because nobody's perfect and we're all trying to be the best that we can be. And so, with that being said, this has been Dominion and Crystal Jordan for episode 1 of season 2, debuting Christmas 2024. Until next time on Darklaw Dominion, have a good night. Thank you.
Thank you for joining me on this journey into the depths of Darklaw Dominion. Remember, it's in the darkest parts of ourselves that we often find the greatest strength. Facing that darkness is not a sign of weakness, it's the path to healing, growth, and reclaiming control of your life. If this series resonates with you, or if you're looking for more empowering stories on healing and reclaiming your power, make sure to follow Decree of Dominion on Facebook, Spotify, and YouTube. There, we continue the conversation on mental health, domestic violence, and relationships, offering hope and support. Until next time, keep exploring the shadows, keep seeking your truth, and keep fighting for your light.